Hello, this is an essay from Ben Fletcher and it's about Curley's wife. How does Steinbeck use the character of Curley's wife to highlight some aspects of American society in the 1930s? Well, let's see how he does. Curley's wife is shown as a character who represents what it was like living in a sexist society during the 1930s. Good, you've clearly stated what your point of view is and, well, the beginning of it anyway. She is a construct of Steinbeck's ideas regarding the effect of the Great Depression. Good, you're clarifying that point of view now, on women, and how prejudice has forced her into a position of loneliness and isolation. Very good. So you've developed this point. It's a very good introduction. It's not too long, and you've clearly stated where your essay is going to go. It's going to prove those things. The other characters in the novel treat her as if she is an attention-seeking sexual predator who is undeserving of their attention. Very good use of vocabulary. George calls her names such as jailbait and a bitch, implying that she is willingly looking for trouble. Excellent up to there. Now here, you're being a bit vague. You want to suggest that she is looking to provoke the men into seeking a sexual relationship and that this might cause trouble through fighting on the ranch. Be as specific as you can. This language is dehumanizing and encompasses how George's preconceptions about her allow him to treat her as less important than himself. An excellent point, although we haven't really seen how yet, so hopefully your next point will be about how he treats her as less important. As well as this, George based his opinions about her simply on the way she looked and not her personality. Okay, this is a separate point, so you haven't fully developed that, but you're going to quote this for this one. However, you slipped into the past tense. The convention is always to talk about novels or any text in the present tense, because even when you read it 50 years from now, it'll be exactly the same on the page, and the same if you read it 20 years ago. So it always exists in a permanent present. Now you correctly use the present tense here. She is described as having rouge lips and red nails, nicely integrated quotations. The colour red has connotations of danger and anger, so perhaps George believes she is a threat simply because of the way she is dressed. Good, that's getting pretty good here. You might make that a sexual threat or the sexual way in which she's dressed. The overuse of the colour could also be foreshadowing the danger towards the end of the novel that Curley's wife plays a big part of. Slightly clumsy phrasing, but absolutely spot on. However, you need to be specific. It's the danger to ruining the men's dream, and you've got to decide how far she's responsible for that. For example, her death symbolises the end of hope in the form of George and Lenny's dreams. Excellent. She's also called a tart, suggesting that she intentionally flirts with the other men and is looking for sex. Very good. This is far from the truth, as she only attempts to talk to the men as she is lonely and isolated. Good, you're returning to your premise at the beginning. There are no other women on the ranch, and she is desperate, you've missed his, for companionship. Curley's wife also has dreams of her own. Perfect. She tells Lenny that she could have been in the movies. Unfortunately, though, she never made it, and instead chose, again you've lapped into the past tense, chooses it should be, to marry Curley. Perhaps Steinbeck is trying to highlight that because of sexism and stereotypes that existed in society, women could barely have a career of their own and were instead dependent on men to provide them with the money they needed to survive. And that's a very good point, which would be even stronger if you linked it to the other women mentioned in the novel who are brothel keepers. They're madams. So you've got Susie and Clara, and that would emphasise what few choices women seem to have in this society. Clearly, Curley's wife married Curley because he was a good financial match, not because she fell madly in love with him. He could provide her with a stable income, however, consequently, she has to bear being trapped in an unloving relationship. This is evident when she says, "Swell guy, ain't he?" implying that she actually dislikes Curley's personality. Well done. She is a belonging of Curley's, and this is why she is given no name in the novel. That's very true, although to really emphasise that point, that's why she is given his name. She is his possession, Curley's wife. Not just that she isn't given her own name. There's a slightly subtle difference there. The apostrophe further emphasizes that he can use her to gratify his own desires. Well done. And that in the relationship she has a lack of importance. Also quite well done. Although the reader is made to feel sorry for her, there are also some unlikable aspects of her personality. She's a racist and tells Crooks that she could get him strung up on a tree so easily it ain't even funny. Steinbeck, quotation marks missing. Steinbeck is here emphasising that as a result of her loneliness, she attempts to bully the only person who has less power than her on the ranch, I hope for an explanation, Crooks. A very well made point. Perhaps because of her vulnerability, the only way she can feel more important is by violating another human's emotions. Don't forget the apostrophe. A very well made point. It also signifies that she's deeply unhappy, a deeply unhappy character, because the only way she can improve her self-worth is by hurting someone's feelings. Okay, well, you've got a well-written essay here. It's strange that you've said you're not sure where to go next, because if I asked you this, what's the most crucial event about Curley's wife that you've left out, you would say, oh, right, she's been killed. It would come to you straight away. And so the perfect essay would also have to deal with that description of her when she's dead, with the aches and the longings having disappeared, and that return to that description of her as looking completely innocent, almost angelic. So a very good essay here that gets into the A grade category. A grades are awarded for how well you consider Steinbeck's point of view and having more than one interpretation. And here you move from the sympathy that we have for her to how critical we might be because of her racism, but then you look at that racism another way, how symbolically she's simply just trying to be less vulnerable, but you haven't fully developed that idea, and by leaving out the ending of your character, in a sense you're leaving out the most important bit. Where an author decides to dispense with their character is actually the most crucial thing about them, and you'd really need to consider that for the A star. And this would lead you into a discussion about why Steinbeck actually kills her off. He doesn't have to. She could have felt violated, come screaming out of the barn as though she's been raped, and Lenny could still have been killed by Curley or George, however, as a result. The same ending could have happened if she weren't murdered. And so there are strong reasons that Steinbeck's got for killing her off, and part of that will be what he's saying about men and their lack of innocence through Lenny, and partly it could be a commentary on what he's saying that society is doing to women. It's not just disadvantaging them, it is effectively giving them an existence that is equivalent to death. Now that's perhaps going a bit over the top. He wouldn't be suggesting that for America as a whole, but he would be suggesting it for the life that women lead on these kinds of ranches at the time. So hopefully you can see how to get this into the A-star territory. And very well done. Thanks for posting this. Hopefully lots of people will learn from it. If you'd like more videos, don't forget to subscribe.